I've been reading manga.
That man and his manga.
Hello and welcome to That Man. That is me Manga, and today we're going to talk about what manga I've been reading. That's right, I haven't done a manga reading log in some time because, well, I just can't be bothered half the time. But hey, there's one here now, so come and join me and listen as I talk about the manga I've actually read. Not the ones I've bought and pretend I'm reading, the ones I've actually read. There's light novels here too, so, you know, you all love the light novels. Unless you don't, and then what are you doing here? First up, we have Kirby. That's right, I started off reading Kirby Manga Mania. And this is certainly a weird thing. So much like the Mario Manga Mania that we had not so long ago, this is a bunch of Kirby manga short stories taken from over the years and compiled into one volume. I believe there's a second volume coming out very shortly, and yeah, it's certainly something interesting. Now, I'm not the hugest Kirby fan. I like it enough. It's one of those games where I pick it up and have a good time, but I usually kind of forget about them. There's nothing really amazing about it. It's just a fun game that is a nice palate cleanser, and this is pretty much what this is. There's nothing extremely special about this. It's just, if you like Kirby and you want some manga adventures, then yeah, you could have a good time with it. There is a weird point in which Kirby gets basically drunk, although they call it loopy drink. And yeah, he's basically walking around drunk and being obnoxious. In fact, Kirby is very obnoxious in a lot of these. It's kind of weird. He's supposed to be this innocent child, but yeah, he's just kind of a jerk to everybody. It's a little bit weird, but hey, if you want some Kirby action, you're going to have a fun time with this one. Dream Big! That's right, I've been reading Volume 1 of Black Canvas, My So-Called Artist Journey by Akiko Higashimura. Now, Akiko Higashimura is created some of my favourite titles. They created Tokyo Tareba Girls and they created Princess Jellyfish. More on that very shortly. And after reading them, I was just kind of like, you know what? I would like to check out some of their other titles. And so I picked up Black Canvas Volumes 1 and Volume 2. Now this is about, it's kind of like a self story. What do you call it? It's kind of one of those autobiographies where it's about the author herself, where she dreams big. She wants to be this manga artist before she leaves school, and she ends up going to this artist school in which the artist teacher is basically Zoro. He's basically Zoro from One Piece. He kind of just, he's rude to everybody. He hits them with the stick if they slack off. And he kind of just has them focus on doing stuff. But as with all good mentors, he's got his caring side too. And this is really more about, it seems more about him than it does her. Which is quite interesting. It's about, obviously, this amazing teacher who has influenced her to where she is. It sounds like it's going to be a kind of a dedicated to one. From what I was reading in it, I feel like it's kind of like he's passed on and she's remembering him, which is interesting. It's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to checking more of this one out because I really did enjoy Volume 1. I'm just trying to find Volume 5. I don't want to buy the whole thing and not be able to find Volume 5 anyway, because that would be a nightmare. So, speaking of Princess Jellyfish, I binged Volumes 1 to 9. It was my first digital manga binge in a long time. And you know what? I forgot how much I love reading digital manga and how easy it is to read digital manga compared to physical ones. Now, Princess Jellyfish, if you aren't already aware, is about a young group of girls. They are classed as neats. They're not conventionally attractive. They all have weird hobbies. For example, one is obsessed with jellyfish, and one loves trains, and one loves the Three Kingdoms. It's kind of like the cast of Prison School, in fact, only more girly, I suppose. And they soon discover that the house that they are living in is going to be demolished. a chance meeting with a young girl, or turns out to not be a girl, it's a young boy who likes dressing up as girls. And they soon begin to campaign to recover, to save the house that they absolutely love. How are they going to do that? Via fashion. Now, I absolutely love this series, and it is one that I do want to continue and talk about a little bit more, maybe in a separate video, or maybe I'll do a combination with Blank Canvas and Tokyo Rebel Girls. I haven't really decided. Let me know what you guys would like to see, just by itself or as one big kind of tribute to the author. But yeah, it's one where I as soon as I started reading it, I just had to keep buying it. I was fortunate I got the first few volumes digitally, very cheap. Incredibly cheap a few years ago, which meant when I was buying the rest it wasn't so much of a painful thing. Each volume digitally is pretty much 2 volumes in one, so I basically read through 18 volumes in about 2 weeks, and I loved every minute of it. It is such a fantastic series. It is absolutely wild, this journey they go on through the fashion industry, and I would really recommend you guys check it out too. It's one of those ones that a lot of people over the years have recommended it to me, and I've kind of held back on reading it, but after rereading Tokyo Rebel Girls, I just wanted to read all of this, and I don't regret doing so. It is absolutely fantastic. Really 100% recommend checking it out if you get the chance to do so. The next one is a light novel, and I've actually binge read 2 light novels, and that is Restaurant to Another World, Volumes 4 and Volumes 5. This is keeping me up to date with Restaurant to Another World because, hey, it's a fun enough series. So this is another one which I covered in the Kuken channel video, and another one that I probably will give its own video at a later date because it's one worth talking about. There is a Restaurant to Another World, a restaurant that links our world with the fantasy world, the fantasy isekai world, you know, the medieval one. So this is a restaurant, it tells a story of different people. So this is one of the things I loved about this, is that each chapter focuses on a different dish, but it also focuses on a different cast of characters, all of which are linked through, well, this Restaurant to Another World. So usually it starts off, they're walking along, or they just come across this door in the middle of nowhere and they go in, have some food, or they're going to die, or they're whatever, they all come across this restaurant. And as the volumes go along, we start to see reoccurring characters, we start seeing them linked with other characters, and we are getting a huge amount of world building in here, despite not really kind of sticking in one location for a huge amount of time. Most of the time it is in the restaurant, but we are hearing stuff about the outside world, and it's really interesting in that. I would really recommend checking these volumes out if you haven't already. Even if you're not a huge fan of food manga, or if you're not a huge fan of isekai, there's enough in here if you want a great world building series. You're going to get a good time with Restaurant to Another World. Yum yum. Next up is Volume 17 of Dr. Stone. Now, this obviously is going to cover with a little bit of spoilers, but this is essentially ended the island arc and is now going into the next arc, which is going to be America, the weirdest island of all. And yeah, this is another fun one. Again, I've sung the praises of this series so many times that you guys are probably fed up with it already, but you know what, it's one worth talking about. It's one that I feel not enough people are really giving it that chance, and the America arc is probably, it was easily the best thing in Jump at the time it was running. It was so good. It was really, really worth your time. If you're still sleeping on Dr. Stone, go check it out. See if it's for you. You may not be disappointed. Definitely worth sticking with. It's just so rewarding. Next up is another one which I mentioned most recently in my manga haul video that I hadn't read. Now I've read it and I'm really glad I did. It's an anime that just came out, and it's another one that I do want to do a video on because I loved Volume 1 of The Great Jahi Will Not Be Defeated. Now, this is one of these ones where it's a boob girl who gets trapped into a small girl. That's right. It's a powerful Jahi. She's a demon lord, second in command, but then a magical girl traps her in our world, and she's trapped as a small child, and she's trying to regain the whole powers and revive the Demon Lord's army. It's so fun. It's one of those ones where I was just like, I was a bit unsure because it was one of those ones I'm not sure if he was going to play it to kind of being a little bit weird or a little bit cringy, but you know what? It's a lot of fun if you like those cute girls doing cute things, or if you like cute small girls trying really, really hard, then you're probably going to have a good time with this one. It's another one which I do want to cover more extensively, but I would really recommend it if you were unsure. If you like titles such as Umaru-chan, even Yotsuba, you probably will get a few good times out of Great Jahi. It's a bit more ecchi than them, but it's not too ecchi. It's kind of like a nice little blend. It's just one of those ones, if you like Dragon Maid, for example, Dragon Maid is another one which I think will get likened to this one very often. Go check it out. There's the first episode of other animes out now, so that's pretty much most of this volume, so yeah, go check this one out. You won't be disappointed. I think it's one that I think will be very popular over a short amount of time. So, question. Do you like The Nerdy Nurse? Now this is one that, I can't remember when I picked this one up, it was a few months ago, it was a few hauls back, but I wanted to talk about it because, hey, it's a manga readathon or reading log, and I thought I'd check this one out because, you know what, it's not one I'd probably mention in a separate video, it's a one and done series, but it's one that I really was surprised at how good it was. Now, this is a story about a young boy who discovers the brand new young nurse in his school. And he discovers that she's hopelessly addicted to gacha games because, hey, who isn't? Am I right? So she's playing Freight Grand Order, Uma Musume, all of them ones. And they strike up an unlikely friendship. And it starts off being about it's kind of the young boy falling in love with his older teacher kind of thing, you know, the thing that the boy crush, and that was a bit but as the series went on, it got more about the nurse herself and the things that she does rather than being a romance, and even kind of at the end it's just kind of like, yeah, it's not going to happen, but they're just good friends, and I like that. I really enjoyed this one. It's a fun series, and I think if you like your series with nerdy protagonists like Otaku Elf or Umaru-chan. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Umaru-chan mentions here. But yeah, it's one that I would recommend checking out. It's a one and done. It's a one-shot volume. So yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, I found. It was $14.99, but it's 2 volumes in one, I suppose. But yeah, I would recommend checking this one out. It's going to pass over a load of radars, but I feel like it could be in a lot of people's collections if they want, if they like a lot of like the Umaru-chan kind of series, or Watamote, or whatever, you know, those kind of series, or Great Jahi, for example. I would definitely recommend these two as a kind of like together. The same with the next one we're going to talk about. So the next one is another one which, again, I want to cover in a separate video. Volume 2 just arrived, so this is just Volume 1. Uncle from Another World. Now, this one came out, Volume 1 came out last month, and I really enjoyed it. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. This is basically what happens after the isekai. So, Uncle, he got transported to another world, he was there for 17 years, now he's back. And it's kind of like one of those things where you're just like, oh, well, what happened in your other world? And he's like, it was horrible. It was a horrible one. And this was honestly hilarious. And if you like the style of, like, for example, Prison School, yeah, I think you're going to have a great time with this one. It's one that I don't see many people talking about, and it's one that I feel like a lot of people passed over. Myself, I probably would have passed over it if it wasn't the fact that Ichiro Oda mentioned that he'd read this one recently. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. A lot of the jokes were really funny. It probably helps that I'm in my early 30s, and a lot of the jokes are in here. For example, it mentions the console wars, by which I mean the Nintendo versus Sega console wars, and it's like, well, who won? And they're like, is Sega still around? And it's like, well, kind of. Sony kind of came in, and that was more traumatic to the main character than anything that happened in the isekai world. And I love that. I just love how, no matter what it is, it's like the thing that kind of traumatizes the most is the fact that Sega doesn't make consoles anymore. And honestly, it's one of those ones, if you are a certain age, you probably are going to get a little bit more mileage than, you know, if you just want your normal shonen or your normal isekai stuff. It is definitely worth a look in if you want something for a little bit older audience, but also another well, isekai. It's looking back on the isekai though. The isekai is already done and gone. Definitely check this one out. I can't wait for volume 2. Speaking of isekai, we have That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime volume 11. Now I have promised you guys I will cover this one at a later date. I need to stop saying I want to cover these series and actually start scripting some of these series. Now, volume 11 was very interesting. It is following the usual slime kind of scenario now, where the first half of it is kind of just like political stuff, and then the second half of it is just fights. And yeah, that's kind of what I want to kind of focus on. And if you like slime isekai, if you're already caught up, or if you whatever, if you like the fights, you're gonna have a good time. If you like the political side, you're gonna have a good time. I feel like this is kind of the anime at the moment is the deciding point for it, because a lot of people aren't happy that it's focused on a lot of the meetings or the political stuff. And I'm kind of just like, yeah, that's what's pretty much the rest of the series now. Half a volume, and then other half, yep. So yeah, I'm enjoying it because I do like the political side of it. I think if I wasn't, I would have been a very, very big slog. But it's one of those ones, I feel like once you get beyond volume 6 of Slime, it just keeps delivering time and time again. And this just gets ridiculously insane. It really does. It's absolutely ridiculous at the moment. But still a lot of fun. Next up, I've read volumes 21 and 22 of what is, in my opinion, the best violent seinen at the current generation. Golden Kamuy, I've said it so many times, I'll say it again, it has it all. And this is, it's kind of, it's just beyond season 3 of the anime. Volume 20, I think, is where the anime ends. So yeah, it's kind of a lot of stuff that builds up on that, and we've got in a few more tattooed convicts, and all of the characters are starting to converge on each other. This is the volume where we have the infamous polar bear joke, and honestly, it is probably one of the funniest jokes I have seen in a manga in a long time. There's such a great build up. This polar bear stalking them across the ice fields, and the resolution to the whole thing is just perfect. If you're still sleeping on Golden Kamuy, check it out. It is easily one of the best series in recent history. Go check it out. Another series which I've been binging quite a bit of is another one that, again, I want to talk about this one in a bigger venue. And that is Miruko-chan Volumes 2 and Volume 3. Now, this is about a young girl who sees dead people. That's right, she sees all of these horrific monsters, and she's kind of got in her head that if the monsters realise that she can see her, they're going to attack her. So she tries her best to ignore them and just gets on with her life, which builds up and builds up and builds up. Now, Volume 3 probably had the biggest part in what I would see it being an actual story arc, and it's something that has started building up in Volume 1 about a teacher who mysteriously has a lot of cats, a lot of dead cats following him. And yeah, there's a very dark thing about this teacher, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it is so worth your time. This is another one I feel like, much like Great Jahi and a few others, once I feel like the anime's got a few episodes out, I feel like it'll pick up, so I would really recommend checking it out. I think a few people have said Volume 1 is quite hard to find. However, I did look on Amazon and it was in stock before I did this video, so hey, who knows. Granted, I'm saying that before I did this video. I'm recording this on Thursday. This is probably going out on Saturday, if we're lucky. Check it out. Next up, we have another one, which again, I'd love to talk about. This one in a bigger thing. I really should be doing more video scripting. There's so many great series that I want to talk to you guys about, which is good because I went through a phase where I didn't want to talk about manga at all. But Bullfire, I maxed out my defense because I don't want to get hurt. I've just read that in a completely wrong order. But this is another one. It's not an isekai, but it's another video game world. And this is the one where she just wants to have fun playing, but she doesn't want to get hurt, so she just puts all of her stats into defense. Nobody else does that, so she ends up incredibly broken, and she gets all of these overpowered weapons, which makes her even more broken. And she's starting to befriend other people who are going to do the same thing, only with different builds, and they all end up broken too. And It's ridiculous. If you like MMOs, if you like VR MMOs, if you like your fantasy titles such as Spider Isekai, this is one that I would definitely recommend checking out. It is such a lot of fun, but it's not going to be for everybody. I feel it's a very easy read. That's one of the things I do like about it. It's such an easy read. You can get through this one in a few hours, but it is really fun. If you like your cute girls doing cute things and you like your VR MMO titles, this one needs to be on your list. Go read it. Next up is another title that I feel is one of the strongest titles on the Shonen Jump at the moment, and it's one that I mentioned a few times. It's Spy Family Volume 5. Now, this one was on my to-read list for a long time because, hey, I've already caught up on the Shonen Jump app and I'm just rereading this, and every time I reread it, I'm always amazed at how fun this one is. It is such a ridiculous series, but it's one that I feel like it does everything just so well. So, a spy basically wants to infiltrate this evildoer, and the only way he's going to do that is by having a family. The evildoer's son goes to this academy, so he adopts a daughter who just so happens to be a telepath. And just to complement everything off, he gets a pretend wife who just so happens to be an assassin. So we've got a spy, a telepath and an assassin. Throw in a dog that can see the future and, well, an obsessed brother to the wife who is obsessed with her, but he also seems to be in the secret police, determined to track down the spies. Every single character who's introduced in here has just got so much build to them, and it's so fantastic. I mean, from one moment you're having like spy stuff where James Bond kind of stuff, you know, just trying to solve these crimes, while another one is just a young small girl just trying to fit in at school. If you like titles like Yotsuba, again, you're gonna have a good time with Spy Family. It's one of, like I said, I feel it's one of the strongest titles in Jump at the moment. But yeah, it's one that everybody loves. I want to talk about this one more, and maybe I'll do a big video on that. I'll just do it on every single one. I'll just a new drinking game. Start this video from the beginning and take a shot every time I say I want to do a bigger video on each of the things I'm reading. You might be quite drunk at the end, especially because this is probably only about 20 minutes. Next manga. So the next manga we've got is another one that I mentioned that I picked up in my manga haul, and one that I really enjoyed reading, and that is Fist of the North Star, an absolute classic title that I'm so glad is getting a re-release. It's one that when I read it, I realised I'd seen a lot of the stuff already before. He said stuff like, "You are already dead." That's right, I got it right that time. And you know what, it's just one of those ones, if you like your overpowered protagonist just punching the crap out of things, you're going to have a good time with this one. And it's one that, you know, I'm really excited to check out more of them. I just hope that Viz kind of get things out a little bit faster. It seems to take a long time for this one to come to the UK, and I'm noticing a lot of people mentioning this with other titles, that it's taken a long time for them to actually release them in the UK compared to the West. We're already in the West, the West to West, America West. But Fist of the North Star, if you haven't already checked it out, I would recommend trying it before. If you like titles like JoJo, you're probably going to have a good time. But if you just like your battle shonen with pretty little plot and you just want somebody to punch the face off somebody else, yeah, you're going to have a good time with Fist of the North Star. Well, that's the weirdest recommendation ever. If you want a series where they just punch the face off somebody else, buy Fist of the North Star. If you want to see a bear do it, get Golden Kamui. Wow, that was a lot of manga that I had to get through in a short amount of time. Like I said, start this video again. Take a shot every time I mention that I'm going to do a bigger video on it. See how drunk you are at the very end of it. But let me know in the comments what titles you've been reading over the last month, and any titles that you would recommend I check out. I'm always on the look for new things. If you haven't already, leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you on that video.